Hey guys, Dr. Frank here, founder of AddictionMindset recovery coaching programs. And in today's video, I want to talk about what in the hell is actually going on with black market THC cartridges and black market CARTS. As you guys know, I dedicate a lot of time to helping people quit these products, but I've had to ask myself, what in the world are we actually dealing with here? What is going on? Where are these things coming from? What are the health consequences of these things? How do we quit them, and how do we get control on the black market industry? I've compared the outbreak of black market THC products to the opioid epidemic that we've seen. And I understand the death rate isn't nearly the same, but I think when it comes to addiction and when it comes to the outbreak in addiction that we're seeing among people who are addicted to these black market products, I think a few years from now, we're going to be talking about this as comparable to larger substance abuse epidemics. You don't have to agree with me, that's fine. And remember, I'm making this video because I'm very pro 420, and I feel strongly that these black market products are damaging the 420 movement, and I'm going to prove that today in this video. And I feel that they're putting the pro 420 movement at significant risk. And the more education we have on this stuff and the more awareness we have, the more we're going to be able to promote the pro 420 movement, because it's through education that we make this better. That's the only way to fix this. And guys, I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes to black market carts, we have so much to talk about. I've been up for hours going through news articles and features and research on databases, and we're going to talk about a lot of things. So bear with me for this whole video. In today's video, I want to start by talking about some of the health issues that people are facing from these black market products. I'm then going to go into what is a cart, where does it come from, how does it get into your hands, what is the black market industry. I want to talk about what's actually in these products and the third-party testing. And then I want to spend some time talking about dispensaries. A lot of times we talk about black market carts and we think of buying these things from our plug or a dealer. But the reality is there are more illegally unlicensed dispensaries in operation in places like LA, California, Oregon, wherever, than there are legal dispensaries. So remember, you could be buying a black market cart from a plug or from an unregistered, unlicensed dispensary. Now, it's not to say it's bad if it's from that dispensary, but you might be putting yourself at higher risk, and we're going to talk a lot about this stuff today. I've made other videos on how to quit carts. You can check that out above. I put the little tag for it, and I'm going to make a lot more on this. So let's jump into right now talking about the health effects. So as an addiction recovery coach, we have had so many people calling. These are always my most popular videos on TikTok, asking me about the marijuana products. And people call and they say, Dr. Frank, I have Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome. Dr. Frank, I've greened out and I don't seem to be getting better. I've been greening out a lot and I'm constantly throwing up. I'm constantly nauseous. I'm losing weight. I have psychosis. I have depersonalization. My doctors don't know what's wrong. I've been to the emergency room 6 or 7 times. No one knows what's wrong with me. They just keep giving me painkillers because I'm in so much pain. My gastroenterologist, my OBGYN, no one knows what's happening. And I asked myself, I was like, what the hell? This doesn't happen from weed. Like, this is not weed. The withdrawals that people are getting, the physical withdrawals, this doesn't match cannabis. This doesn't match cannabis at all. So I said, okay, it's time to start to look into this. So I asked myself, okay, what are some of the things that people are experiencing? And I'm just going to read a few off to you. From this article here. I put the links below to all these articles in this YouTube video, so be sure to check them out in the description. But this one, alarming health effects from vaping black market carts. Let's just read some of the headlines in this. A dank vape user, which I was addicted to dank vapes once here in New York, coughs up blood. I kept getting a thick yellow mucus, which then became blood. A Dabwoods user has a high heart rate and elevated blood pressure after just one hit. A Penx user coughs up blood. A counterfeit Select Elite cart user suffers a bloody nose with congestion. And we're going to talk about Select Elite because that is a real brand, but it's one of those brands that Chinese counterfeits have highly targeted when it comes to counterfeit carts. Lion's breath user coughs up tar, legitimate black tar. And, again, here's another brand where these dealers are getting really smart. What they did was they had purchased real lion's breath carts, taken the real oil out of these, sent it out for third-party testing, got back the legitimate third-party testing reports, and then copied that QR code onto their products. And then what they did was they just filled it up with all the fake stuff and sold a bunch of carts. So they had like QR codes that matched real testing because they sent out real product, but the cart that the person was actually smoking was fake. And we're going to talk about what was in that cart and what happened in a little bit. But I just want to read some more of these. Someone describes greening out after using an ONXY, an oxy cart. I'm not familiar with that one, but they described it as greening out. They couldn't move. Their heart was racing really fast. They threw up. They turned pale. Their body went numb. They had chills. They were shaking. I remember one time I smoked a TKO cart, and I remember my body going numb. I thought I had a stroke. I couldn't talk. I was laying in my bed. I was scared for my life. And then I read, I'm like, oh, I greened out. I didn't green out. I was poisoned from a black market cart. And we're going to talk about that. Let's see what else we have in this one. These are just some of the reports from 2020. I want to read one of these things here. Okay. Sky High's Originals causing fainting in a mini seizure. So Sky High Original cart causing fainting in a mini seizure. My 15-year-old daughter was using a Sky High pen. She's young and inexperienced. She did this while she was at home. She started to slur her words and couldn't speak. I had to catch her before she fell on the floor and completely lost consciousness. She had a mini seizure. These fakes are dangerous. Please know what you're buying your stuff from. I'm an old school pothead in my 40s. I know this is trendy, but for the love of God, this stuff will kill you. It's just insane. A chronic and super G cart user, chest congestion, can't get rid of the congestion, can't breathe. A lot of people too, guys, remember, they're not actually smoking carts and getting health effects from carts. What they're actually experiencing is the impact of something called K2 or spice, which is synthetic marijuana. So if you're trying to quit smoking carts and you're going through some of these really intense withdrawals, getting some of these really intense health problems, you have to consider weed. Yes, it can have minor physical withdrawals, but if you're getting these intense physical withdrawals, stomach problems, vomiting, passing out, nausea, it's probably not weed at this point. Your cart has been laced with something else, most likely synthetic marijuana, or maybe a low-level opioid, fentanyl, something along those lines. We've seen reports of all types of things being laced in these carts. So that's some of the health effects. I'll tell you guys, when I'm helping people quit carts, I get at least 1 to 2 phone calls a week where an individual is going to the emergency room, and I'm talking to emergency room doctors, filling them in on what it is that's going on and helping them decide the best testing for this individual. Should they be getting a CAT scan or an x-ray of the abdominal region? I had one patient who wound up at Mayo Clinic, and they wound up having to get a portion of their colon removed because of the autoimmune reaction that was created within their gastrointestinal system from using black market carts. The person, we helped them a lot. But it's 1 to 2 calls a week, though, I'm getting on this stuff from people going to the ER. I want to read about this one a little bit more. This is having to do with bootleg marijuana. This is another gentleman's experience with carts. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't walk. I couldn't even move my hands. He was 19 years old. He went to the hospital, and he was placed in a medically induced coma. And he was placed in that, I think, for, 9 days. He was in this coma. And they found that he was smoking black market carts, and he actually purchased it from an unlicensed dispensary. And we're going to talk a little bit about what differentiates a licensed dispensary from an unlicensed dispensary, and what's going on. This cart had a lot of vitamin E acetate in it, which we'll talk about, but it also contains something called myclobutanol, which is a fungicide that converts to hydrogen cyanide. So he essentially had cyanide poisoning by the time he was in the hospital, in the ER. This is he had, this is so important too when it comes to this boy's story. And I'll tell you something about my own story too. He was on life support, remember, before he was able to breathe on his own from smoking a black market THC cart. We had another 18-year-old girl, UCLA Health. She came in with a bad cough, fevers, nausea, chills, labored breathing. Also wound up having to go through extensive pulmonology care to keep her lungs working. And, why is this so important right now? For you guys who are smoking black market carts, a lot of these health effects and a lot of the x-rays and the CAT scans, they might actually look like COVID. Remember, COVID-19 causes a bunch of inflammation in your lungs. It causes this crazy inflammatory response. But those of you guys going to the hospital with symptoms, can't breathe, chest tightness, and they're telling you have pneumonia, but you smoke carts, they might mistake you for having COVID, especially if you get a COVID test and it's a false positive test. So if you smoke carts and you go to the hospital and your x-rays or your CAT scans of your lungs look like COVID, and you get a false positive COVID test, they're going to start to treat you like you have COVID when they're not actually treating what the problem is, the thing that sent you there in the first place, which is these black market THC products or THC carts. And it's really, really scary. It's what we're seeing right now. And I want to talk a little bit next about where are these carts actually coming from? Where are black market THC carts coming from? Because I'm saying back, like, how in the hell do I put out a TikTok video that gets 1 million something views and everyone is greening out? Everyone has CHS. No, this is from black market products. But where are they coming from? Where does all this start? So right here, we have David Downs of the California Bureau of Chief for Leafy, so really obviously big guy involved in the cannabis industry. He says it all starts with China, where you can get the empty cartridges for both THC and nicotine products, as well as additives, flavorings, and thickeners being used in these cartridges with the THC oil. He describes it as a very deep, mature, and advanced industry that begins in China and ends in our own backyard. This is just wild. So I researched that. I said, well, is there any validity to that claim when it comes to some of this stuff coming from China? What's the reality of that? And the answer is yes, it does. So how this works, these dealers, or I should rather say wholesalers, most likely from Los Angeles's district, they go on Alibaba, they go on DHgate, and they buy these fake packages. They buy these fake products off of in mass quantities. So they'll buy, 10,000 dank vape cartridges and packaging, and it all looks really real. It says third-party testing. They're becoming so advanced now that they actually have fake QR codes on a lot of carts. So it's actually bringing you to fake third-party testing websites. But of this $52 billion marijuana industry, only 22% of it is legal, 78% is black market. So if you're not going to a licensed dispensary and purchasing your product in which you're paying a pretty buck for it because of the high taxes, chances are you're in that 78% and you're using black market products. So a lot of this stuff, it starts in China with the packaging and the products and the things that they use, the ingredients, the additives that they use to cut these carts. And you don't believe me, Juul is actually in the process, or has been in the process, of suing 30 Chinese companies for making counterfeit Juul pods, which are then sold and distributed here in the United States in gas stations and vape shops. So this is real, and it's not hard to put that together. China has been responsible for other counterfeit products, counterfeit Gucci, counterfeit Nike, counterfeit Louis Vuitton, so it's not shocking that there's counterfeit carts coming from that area. Now, what happens? These counterfeit packaging products and ingredients make it to a place called LA's Toy District. And again, I posted the article to this, A Journey of a Tainted Vape Cartridge from China's Labs to Your Lungs, in the link below for the YouTube. It goes to LA's Toy District, where you have these wholesalers. So the question might be, why would it go there? Well, a dealer doesn't want to use a credit card to buy 10,000 dank vape cartridges off of Alibaba, because that can be traced back to them. So it gets sent to LA's toy district, where you then can go pay cash and buy all of these counterfeit things and counterfeit products. And remember, these look real. They look so real. They even have, in that case of that Lion's Breath cart and the select carts, they use oil from a real cart, send it for third-party testing, get that lab result, and then replicate that QR code on all of their fake products. So they're getting so advanced in how they do this stuff when it comes to the fakeness of these carts. So it goes to LA's toy district. Now you go there with a big wad of cash. You're a dealer, you're a trap house, whatever. You go buy a bunch of this stuff, and now it's just a matter of you're manufacturing it in your house, you're manufacturing it in your lab, and boom, here you go. Now, the other big problem that you run into when it comes to this stuff is the ingredients that they're cutting carts with. So if you're smoking a black market cart, chances are it's not THC oil in there. There's other things in there. Many of these things coming from China and other places, and I'll just read off some of them. They talk about bulk. Where is this here? Okay, here we go. So Honeycut was like the liquid that started all of this, I guess. They would cut these carts with something called Honeycut, but then a bunch of companies mimicked that, and they use things like Floraplex, Uberthic, mass terpenes put out by Pure Diluent. These are all vitamin E oils. Mr. Extractor of Oregon released Clear Cut. This was a vitamin E oil that is potentially positive in up to 60 to 70% of street carts. Peak Terpenes by Thick Stretch